Today on the podcast, I have Alex and Mark, the creators of the film Outliers. It's a documentary about people who craft things with their hands. And in a world of all this AI and generative AI stuff happening, this is pretty important to see. It's important to see that there are still people that are crafting things with their hands and loving every minute of it. So check out the episode. These guys made a film and they sent me it and had me watch Outliers, which is a feature documentary about, I mean, the way that I look at it, at least, is it's about people who have the passion to create and people who are just not going to take no for an answer. They're going to build what they see in front of them because they love it. I don't know. Is that kind of like, maybe you guys can describe it a little better?
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. And subtopics within that are the persistence of getting through like those financial barriers that are there,
Right.
and also the other human barriers. There was Gracia in the movie who said that the naysayers can come from anywhere. And that was
Yeah.
a comment that she had made, and I thought it was a really intelligent comment and a very aware, self-aware of what's going on around her. That is also a pitfall too. The person that says you can't make it or you should be doing something else, even seemingly nice, but it can also be a detriment to your plan as an artist, or the vision that you have as an artist. So yeah, I think that is definitely a part of it, man. And I think there are some subparts within that. But yeah, it's sticking to your gun. You
Yeah.
believe in yourself and you believe in your work and you're sticking to it, and that's very, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you guys come up with like the idea to do this? Because there's so many people out here who are doing things that they love, like creating films or drawing, or an artist who's a tattoo artist or the swordsmith. Like, how did you find these people and why these people?
They're all kind of in our network, basically.
Well, it was kind of a 6
Yeah.
degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
The bladesmith, it just so happens that a woman who works at my company here, that's her husband.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
knew him for a while, and that's actually
How
how
we met.
how
Yeah.
I met Mark originally,
Yeah.
and so these were people who were kind of like in our peripheral, like Gracia I met because of another woman in my office who went to her to buy handbags once.
Yeah. And Abby has been a good friend of mine a few years
Yeah.
prior. So it was, like a 6 degrees Kevin Bacon thing, pretty much.
Yeah. It was always like we knew one person who knew that person, right? And it was, some of them were just kind of by accident, but I think we had this idea first that we wanted to tell the story of art and kind of the definition of an artist from an artist viewpoint,
Yeah.
and so we found people who were in, our intention was to find people who were in spaces that were like doing things with their minds and their hands and their thoughts and concepts and doing real tangible things that exist in the physical world, you know. And as a quick aside, we didn't realize that this is kind of a bit of a quiet AI protest for generative work.
Right.
You
Yeah. And you
know,
did it before, right? Because wasn't this filmed a little bit before all the crazy AI stuff?
Yeah.
when did we
Well,
start?
we
Was it
started like early 2024, I think, right?
our first shoot?
Or no,
was
2023. Right?
November. I think it was November 7th of 2023.
It was,
Yeah.
That was our first shoot day.
exactly
that's-
2 years before we did our first screening.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
yeah, it
that's
was about,
before.
late 20. What's that?
That's before the like crazy
Yeah.
AI push, but like it's like you said, it's kind of quietly protesting this whole like
Yeah.
crazy thing that we're living through.
Well, no, absolutely. I think it's a bit of a quiet protest. I mean, that wasn't the focus of it, but we realized that meant something to people when we premiered it, because
Yeah.
that became a very topical point now of like, who owns the work, that this is your work that you've created, that nobody can duplicate this, it's protecting the work and the assets of that. And that, the real artist really, the making something, really making
Right.
something, has value. And it puts emphasis on the value of that, Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't have
Why-
said it better.
Why feature length? I mean, that's a big push too. It's like I've never done a feature length doc or feature-length film, and it's always like, how do you know it needs to be that long, and when do you know that it's done?
Yeah, this is a well,
Yeah.
we initially were going back and forth on it maybe being a mini series versus a
Yeah.
feature length doc, and then why did we decide feature length again? I'm trying to
Um,
remember.
I came to you because you originally wanted to do episodic series,
Yeah, right.
and my biggest concern with that was that it felt too much like focusing on each person,
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and the segues were kind of hard, like because like when you do like something episodic, there's always a little bit of like, how do I get you to turn the page to go to the next chapter as an audience,
Right. Yeah.
right? So
How do you
that's
lead
always
into
a
the next
challenge.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, we had this very simple policy Mark and I agreed on early on is that we don't wanna be scandalous and we don't wanna be exploitative,
Mhm.
and a lot of those techniques you see in, like, documentary series kind of create this, like, scandalous, exploitative controversy that isn't there sometimes, right?
Right.
It's pretty obvious, um, so I came to Mark and I was, like, concerned about we're, like, into some shooting at the time. We shot a few things. We were probably, like, 10 hours, 15 hours of footage, and we're like, "Oh, we're really gonna do a series initially," and then it was like, I wasn't feeling it, and I was struggling with, like, pushing against, like, our policy that we had, and so it was like we revisited the policy, and I was like, "Well, let's how can we, like, do this edit so, like" well, what we found out during the interview, surprisingly, is that we were asking different questions of the artists, but, they were saying a lot of the same thing,
Mm.
and I found that really fascinating, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so, like, they were kind of finishing each other's sentences,
It
right?
all sort of very
Yeah.
cohesive, and I think in long term, it all worked out that we did do the feature length story because it all kind of yeah, I was initially at least I was initially worried, like, is this gonna, all, like, flow in together and make sense for, like, one
Yeah.
solid story? But like you said, they were finishing each other's sentences, even though they all came from different backgrounds and different, worldviews, what have you, they had similar philosophies, similar approaches, kind of like what you touched on in the very beginning, Sean, as well. And it all served for a story that I think was much larger than them, much larger than us combined.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it just made for a better, like, character arcs,
Yeah.
and, like, how we did the music to, like, really, like, bleed one thing into the next and just continue, and continue, and continue, and take you
Hmm.
on a journey. It was like we started very like, very soon realized it was like, yeah, the series, it just throws off that rhythm,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah, definitely.
And why would you consider them outliers, I guess? Because it's I mean, I guess there's totally different ways to look at the word outliers, but, like, the thing that comes to me is Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers,
oh,
Yeah.
geez, yeah.
Yeah.
where he talks about, like, all the outliers who, like, built these massive companies, and this is, like, outliers in art, and so, I guess, how are they outliers in art or in their form of art?
Well, I remember specifically where the title was birthed was we were having lunch on a client shoot, and I had said the word outlier,
That's
and
right.
then you were like, "That's our title," and we just kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
um, I guess I mean there are lots of creative people out there,
Yeah.
um, and I truly believe like everybody has the capacity for creativity. Um, seldom few people will actually tap into that, which Mark actually touches us on this in the film where it's like, you have your, counterproductive people, then you have non-productive people, you have productive people, and, um, there's a lot of people that maybe just didn't tap into those talents that they had. Maybe they didn't
Mhm.
even discover what they were capable of. They never looked at a canvas and started, like, drawing or painting. Um, and then there's, like, some people that will actually learn the craft, like, try to and make some art, but then there's very few people like us, like the 2 of us and also you as well, Sean, that, are will be like, "No, I'm in this for life," you know?
Mm.
So maybe that's what it means to me as far as, like, an outlier. What do you think?
Um, I have a fine arts degree from UConn, right? My wife and I both have a fine arts degree from there, and that's where we met, and, you know, when I told my family that I was going to go to school for fine art, it was like, why? Like
Yeah,
it didn't quite equate or make
right.
sense. Like it doesn't seem like a career path, right?
Well,
So
it's
it's
not
not
to
like,
most people, and that's I think, that's the thing is, like, people tell you, like, you can't make films, you can't be a photographer, like, you can't pay your bills, you can't be an artist, you can't be a fine artist, but
yeah,
I think a lot of those people are just, like, out of fear saying that.
Yeah.
well, that is true.
Yeah.
No, that is true. There is a fear, there's a reticence to like take the plunge and, go down that path, right?
Right,
Yeah.
And so an outlier is it's if the definition of it is someone who's like it's not within the normal convention.
right,
And it's unfortunate, we're calling attention to the fact that this isn't a normal path, like a quote unquote normal path. It's like there's no like, the exchange of goods and time is totally different than like if I was building a widget,
right.
a reproducible widget, again and again and again. Every piece is a unique piece, you know.
Yeah.
So, it's just not considered quote unquote normal path to take.
On the whole idea that you were just talking about with, like, their plan is to basically create art and make something, and a lot of people don't take that path because it's a lot of people fear it, and there's not really a plan B. And I remember in the film, I forget the guy's name, but swordsmith,
Same. Same.
he said, "I won't be able to retire, but that's okay because I love what I do." And I just thought that was wild because, like, I kinda have those same thoughts as a filmmaker. I'm like, "Well, I mean, I wasn't really planning on, like, if I stop, I would just keep doing the same thing," which is kinda what he said. Like, "If I stop, I'm just gonna keep making stuff, so why stop?" I thought that
Yeah.
was really wild and interesting because I think we all share that same feeling that we're, like, we're in it for life, like you said,
Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's if we make an exception, maybe there would be when I'm like 80, I won't be able to hold
Right.
like a giant like camera rig, make that exception. But aside from making art, telling stories, I mean, I can just speak personally. Me always wanting to be an artist since I was a child, like, you know, I would just hear talks of like retirement, and that was just such a foreign concept. It wouldn't register in my brain
Mm,
because I'm just very pursuit driven. Like even outside of filmmaking, I run marathons. I'm trying to get into other pursuits as well. And then of course we're just gonna keep making movies. And I stopping just doesn't really now I think of it, it's kind of reflective of the film itself in that it doesn't really have like a finite end. When you watch it, and
right.
I guess I'm spoiling it for people who haven't seen it, but hopefully people will watch it have watched this interview. But but it's I guess it's like it's a testament to that. The work never ends,
Right.
and stewardship is a big theme, a big driver for me and Alex, for the two of us. And I think it's a big part of what keeps us going and just carrying something on for new generations to be inspired by and to do better. So yeah. Mm.
You know, that comment that Jamie made though, I really loved it. What I really loved about it, it was very poetic, but it it shed a light on something which was interesting is a person finding their basic purpose in life,
Right.
right? We all have like a basic purpose, and sometimes people spend decades and decades trying to find that. There are people I've met in my life, it's like, at 48 or 50, they're like, I still don't know what I want to do. And they're
Yeah.
hurting, you can feel that. You can feel that. And it kind of sucks because they feel like they're still a bit lost. Even though they're successful, they might be running a business, but they're like, it's not the thing,
The nice thing is I
and
don't think it's too late, though, even if they're that age,
it's
like,
not.
it's
Yeah.
never too late, like
Well, I mean, look at Georgia O'Keeffe, the painter. I mean, she didn't start
yeah,
well into her like what 60s, 70s, and then had an amazing career,
Yeah.
right,
doing her work out west. And so, Jamie's statement is very, very much in line with Mark Massaro's statement too. It's like, it's just a part of their nature. They found that out. They discovered that, and ran with it because it was just so close to them
yeah,
as a person, and I think that's a really cool statement. So when Jamie says, I don't think I'm ever to retire, and he laughs, I mean, that's just he's being honest. That's
Yeah.
who he is, and he's no apologies for it one way or the other. He's like, this is who I am as a person, and that's cool. That's cool to discover that. It's cool for him to share that too with others. It's an important thing to look at.
Yeah.
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 I
Definitely.
think it shows that you've found the thing you love. Like when
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
I don't really want to stop this. Like a lot of people, if you talk to them about what they do for work or their profession, oftentimes they'll say, yeah, I'm looking forward to retiring at, they have like a date and a time and an age and like,
Yeah. Right.
they're like, count it down 10 more years and I'm out. And I'm like,
Yep.
I guess, but like, have you been doing that your whole life? And I understand some people have to do that because maybe it's a way of just having to pay for their life or whatever it is. You can still on the side though do something creative if you need that urge to be filled.
Mm,
But it
Yeah.
is
yeah.
interesting that people do work to live and not just like do the thing that they love. And I guess not everybody should do the thing they love. I mean, that's the other lesson too, is like, I think it's a little dangerous for everybody to go out and do the thing they love because some people maybe can't turn it into a profession necessarily. And maybe I'm wrong.
Possibly, yeah. No,
Maybe
no,
I'm wrong.
possibly. But you bring up a good point about that grocery list way of living.
Yeah.
It's like high school, and I do the college, then I find the girl, and I get married, and I have the kids, do the house, have the
Yeah.
job. Okay, I retire at 65, and I'm moving to North Carolina at 65 to have that thing.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, if that's the game people want to play and live, and they find that that's comfortable for them, I'm not going to criticize that at all. But I don't know, man. That sounds like a pocket sock.
Yeah. Not the game at all. Right.
That
Yeah.
sounds boring.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And for some people, it's not. That's part of their game. Their game is like
Yeah,
levels like that. And some
yeah.
people, I think, I don't know all the different archetypes, but like, I think some people are built that way where it has to have that structure or they fall apart. Like, it has to have this weird, like, I climb to this, now I have this, and then I get to this. And
Yeah.
they can't
Yeah.
build their,
Certainty. You know?
they
Yeah.
can't build their
Well,
own ladder. Like, you have to climb a ladder in life no matter what. And some of us can figure out how to build it while we're climbing it, which is crazy. And some
mm,
people want the ladder already built from Home Depot and they want to climb the ladder that's built,
Yeah.
like I think if you're creative, you're building it. It's like building it while you fly kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
you're not sure what tomorrow brings, but you're okay with that.
it's
Yeah.
okay, man. Just
Yeah.
living your life, man. That's good.
Yeah.
And you're living it the way you want. That's the cool
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with this film, has it opened any doors of ideas for the next thing? Like, I know this is something that you're shopping around now and you're bringing it to film festivals, but has it opened up an idea of like, oh, now we want to do this? And have you started to plan other things, or is this your sole focus right now and you're going to work on this and chop this around and not work on something else yet?
I think priority right now is to shop this around and just get it seen in front of people and eventually find a home for it. But we have talked, especially recently, about ideas and plans, what we
Mm,
want to do next. I would personally like to see like the Outliers origin story. So like kind of do like a piece sort of like following like I guess ideally in a sense like, you would find mentors of like the people that we follow. Now maybe not specifically their own mentors, but like
mhm,
where does the craft come from? And we do touch on this though, like toward the end of the film where we're introduced to John Coffer, who is the original tintype revivalist in America. Um, we actually did we were actually looking at some of it before the interview, but we actually did do a piece on him. It's like a 2 to 3 minute sort of like doc trailer, I guess you would call it. And that was really cool. But I think him alone, like he deserves his own feature length, story. And
it's a great story.
it's really good.
Yeah.
And you look at like, because not only are these, and this kind of goes back to the anti-AI thing, not only is this all art, but it's art that's pretty much been around for a long time.
mhm.
And, you think like tintypes, well, or like, how cool it'd be to like find like a tattoo artist that does like poking, or like the old way of doing
With the
tattoos.
bamboos and striking the bamboo?
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
sweet.
You
That'd be
know?
cool.
So that's my little, at least for, I speak for myself, that's one thing I'd like to see.
Oh,
Um,
we tossed around 2 different ideas for feature-length documentary. Um, one of them is interesting, and we're throwing around this idea of doing something about a region,
Mhm.
yeah.
a section of the country. You know, like, one of my favorite TV series of all times and favorite season is True Detective season 1,
Mhm.
and
So
I think
good.
it's beautiful, and it's, what's cool about the Louisiana Bayou is that it's very, very much a character in the story. Like, it has this
Right.
atmosphere and this tonality to it that's, like, always, like, overbearing, you know, and has a character quality to it. So it was like I watched it again just recently, the first season, and I was like thinking about it. And I brought it to Mark. I'm like, what if we did something like within a region? We're tossing around, but we have.
Mhm.
I just finished an outline for a short film. It's actually a fiction piece, and then a second one that I did an outline for earlier last year while we were in the middle of filming and editing. And then kind of throwing around this idea of this kind of like documentary about a region. I'm just not sure what it would be yet. It's very early on. I'm just discussing, but like I think that would
Yeah.
just be neat to discover a place like that, like very Stephen King-esque, like someplace in Maine that has a character. Like I just read Salem's Lot. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's like Salem's Lot is a character in the story, you
Yeah.
know, and that's interesting. So it's like, you know, how can an area or region define you, or how do you define that? Um, you know, so and that started with the idea of talking about a day in the life of a place, like following people around through an entire day, and he's in between it, like, what's the character of this area, you know?
Definitely.
But then there's a whole feature thing that I've been bugging him about for 2 years since we
Yeah.
started this.
Oh, yeah.
It's a feature fiction story that I wanna do, but,
Okay. Yeah.
it takes money, man. I mean, you can
I
the effort
know.
and the time is fine, you know, like, we did this movie on a shoestring budget, like, next to
Right.
nothing to do this whole movie, but it's, once you start bringing people in and grips and trailers and craft services, you're like, "Wow, it's a lot of dough."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like docs you can sneak by sometimes and get things built the right way, even on a shoestring budget. But when you
Mhm.
start looking at features, it's like there's it's pretty much impossible because you have to pay the people who are in it, and then you
Yeah.
have to, light all the scenes, and it's I think it's more structured, at least from my point of view, and, like, it's a lot of free flowing, which is kinda nice, and, like, you kind of let it unfold, and you
Mm.
follow the path of what people are doing, and so it's not as staged unless there's a moment that needs to be recreated.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. I mean, you're not dealing with the same type of economic constraints of going
Right.
onto a set to shoot for that day, you know. And we would come in with a plan like, oh, we want to make sure we get some of these shots because there's some good B-roll things we want to make sure we have, you know. And you come into the interview with the plan, but the interview can go totally different direction as you're in the middle of it, and you kind of let it go too. Sometimes you're like, okay, we're gonna let this go, and then you guide it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Doing a feature thing, you know, it's always a plan and a structure in the economics, and there's always somebody who's writing the check who's like, "Well, I have the final say in the day too."
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you have to it's a different type of collaboration, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we did next to nothing to make
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
movie, you know. It was 30 35 shoot days, I think it was, we counted.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just gonna ask
Yeah.
how long.
Yeah, it was
And
like
and
35 shoot days, and I think we ended up with 75 hours of footage at the end of this whole thing.
Yeah.
and over the
Yeah,
course of a few years
two.
or a couple
Yeah, 2
years?
years.
Couple years?
Yeah.
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 To expand on that, it was definitely experimentation for sure. I mean, I don't know if we touched on this, but like Alex scored the entire thing,
Oh,
and
sweet.
this was your, yeah, this is really your first go at scoring, which was right, which was pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely the first time I really
yeah,
tapped into doing an hour and a half of
yeah,
music, so
yeah,
that was something.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was interesting. I mean, and I had never edited for feature before. Um, I think we all drew from different inspirations because like me taking on all of the editing, for instance, and then like you taking on all like the music. We were all we had like loose inspirations. I mean, I think like for you, you were kind of like driving at say it's kind of like Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross sort of like methods, right? And for me, I was like trying to kind of go after like sort of a hybrid of conventional documentary editing with like the way like Scorsese films are edited in a very like non-linear kind of chaotic fashion.
Hmm.
But there wasn't really much of like a planned structure for how we were going to do that. We just had like concepts, and we would just sort of like hash it out and talk, and then we would go, I guess, divide and conquer, and then come back, and it all worked out pretty well. And it was all like it was an interesting, because I'm not used to collaboration all that much. Like me as a filmmaker is um someone who's like, both done this for fun and also it's a way that I'd make a living. Um, until we met, I was not really used to a sort of collaborative workflow, but it allowed me to, with you being there, and also not to mention acting as a producer, sort of like directing the whole thing, and having to deal with like location releases and talent releases, and I'm like, oh, well, I can just kind of focus on just being creative now, and it was really cool. It was really cool. Mhm.
Can I tell you a quick story of what happened though during this movie?
I love stories. Go for
All
it.
right. So we had shot from November of 23 up until I think it was November of 24. We had shot most of the principal stuff we wanted to get, and we wanted to start getting like a rough cut with this, right?
Yeah.
So Mark and I rented up a cabin up in Sharon, Connecticut to like go remote after Christmas for like 4 or 5 days, which was an absolute disaster because the water heater broke 2 days
Yep.
in the middle of winter, and we had to bounce out of there and bail.
Mhm.
So we made some like a little bit of progress.
It's
Like
a
I
good
did like the intro.
idea.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
fabulous. We brought all of our crap with us. We got like
Yep.
the studio set up in this cool little Airbnb, and like we're just like
Yeah.
hanging out, making dinner together, shooting the shit, sharing
Yeah.
stories, figuring this thing out, and crafting it.
Yeah.
Absolute disaster. Like it was totally a shit show.
Yep.
So we came out of that with he had done the intro, and I did 2 music pieces during those 2 days, right? And they were cool. Like everything was kind of like making sense. He did this intro piece, like the prologue, and like I was like, all right, this is kind of I'm feeling it, right? The emotion of it. That happened. Okay, we bounced. I was so pissed off. I was like, I really want to make some headway into this.
Mhm.
And so we agreed, like, let's go our separate ways while we work on this. Now that we wrote down some notes for each other, and like, let's reconvene like in February. So like, we're like 6 weeks later, right? And I wrote a bunch of music, a bunch of little pieces, sent them to him. He's doing the edit. He was like, yeah, it's moving along pretty good. And then he
Yeah.
put the music into the edit, tweaked some stuff, and then we sat down to watch it together in my studio. We both watched, like, it was like 30 minutes of this thing was kinda roughed in with music and stuff pretty quickly, and we looked at each other and we're like, "This sucks.
Yeah.
This is garbage." It was like these montagey music videos of, like,
Yeah.
people being cool, and, like, the story didn't make sense, and, like, it just wasn't flowing, and the only thing we really held on to was the prologue because we thought it was just a really solid intro metaphorically of, like, this building symphony kinda thing. We're, like, orchestrally building, you know?
We went
Mm.
as far as like building sort of like a detective board of
We
like
did.
different like plot points with index cards, basically like here's
Yeah.
how the story's gonna flow.
Absolute fucking disaster.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Dude, I'm sorry, man. I'm not feeling the music that I wrote in this." He's like, "I'm not feeling the edit." It's just like montage after montage after montage. And it just felt like a bunch of corporate reels one after the other for 30 minutes. I'm like, "I'm exhausted watching this. Like, I'm done,"
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so, we sat down and we're like we both sat down on the floor in my studio and, like, looked at all of our cards and we're like, "We're starting over."
Yeah.
So we did. So we scrapped it and we talked for like 4.5 hours that Saturday, I remember. We were just
Yeah.
like talking, talking, talking. Like we were like opening up these philosophy books and like different concepts and directions and
Yeah.
stuff. And like that changed the whole course of what we were doing. But it took some cojones to like look something in the face of like what you made and you're like, yeah, it's not good. And we made it this far. We're like, shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But that's part
Yeah.
of it, you know? Like, I think people don't see that side where it's like,
No.
it's not, it can be pushed out into the world, but most people know that it's not right. Like, you knew it wasn't right to keep
Yeah.
going. Like, you knew it had to be different. And I think
Yeah.
that's part of the process that people don't see is like, why does it take you so long to put something out? Or like, I get that from my friends sometimes. Like, I'll film something for fun, and they're like, "Why did it take so long for us to see this?" And it's like, well, I just wasn't ready to even touch it because I'm like, I can film something and understand what I'm filming, but maybe I don't really understand what the edit is. And if you
Yeah.
take time, I think between filming and editing, if you have the time at least, I think you can develop something different than what you were originally thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I think for us too, I think you're right. I think it was us trying to find what that story was,
Mhm.
and like try to understand these people more that we're interviewing and following around, and like get a better understanding of it. I think you are right though on that.
Yeah.
It's trying to discover that, and it wasn't for us. Wasn't so much a time. Mark and I have a very similar philosophy to the work we're doing. Is that sometimes we might not know exactly like all the attributes of something, but we just go at it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we're both kind of like tenacious about that. Like we kind of are relentless about like just going. And like that's always kind of like that's why I think we work well together because it's just like we just keep working through it, and never really walk away from it.
Yeah.
It becomes somewhat obsessive,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it worked out to our benefit because that's our style together. We both are that way.
Yeah.
Like I was driving him crazy. Like I'd call him like every day at 4:30.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Where are we up
Mark's
to,
like,
man?"
no, stop
Yeah, he
calling
call
me.
Yeah,
literally, he called me more than my dad.
that's what he's and then I'm obnoxious about it, but, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, what do we do?" Like, I had this idea I'm gonna talk about, like, "I got this thing." I text him at night. He's like, "Yeah, dude, I got it."
It
Yeah.
was good though to do that so that we would, I mean, Sean, you can probably relate to this, like, when you're editing, like, you are very overwhelmed by, like, everything you're doing, and it can be easy to kinda just walk away at times,
Yeah.
but when you've got your call for this, a producer, because even sure, like, yeah, there's no, like, money on the line here, but we
Right.
gotta act like it, we gotta work like it, and sort of staying on top of each other like that, it longevity and long term, it all worked out because it had to get done, so
Yeah. Yeah, but that's
yeah.
part of that partnership too, man. It's like you'd show me some edits. I'd be like, "Oh, that's cool. What if we had that shot?" I'd play some music. He had these great ideas, like, I'm writing this music and like this really busy piece, and he's like, "Well, we should take that out because I have this idea for an edit." And you just take out this whole first part of it. It's very simple, but the melody still comes in later, and it felt like it fit, and like everything started kind of coming together as these pieces. So then that tenacity, but then willingness to listen is kind of a fun balance, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he would come up to me and be like, "Does this suck?" And I'd be like, "No, no, this is great."
This
I would do the same, like, "Does this suck?" And
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
"No, no, this is cool," and it's like you don't know sometimes. You're like, you're
Right.
in this bubble. You just keep going and driving at it.
yeah.
But you have to be
Um,
able to take that feedback and give that feedback, which is
oh
it's
god.
hard. It's hard to take feedback and give feedback in anything creative because
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, I love this. And then you show it to somebody, they're like, yeah, I mean, it's good. And you're like,
Yeah.
what? But you're stuck sometimes in this, like, it's so good, and, like,
Yeah.
having a partnership where you can bounce things off and be like, "Well, it is good, but I think we need to change it so that the melody comes in this way or the edit hits this way." It's nice to
Yeah.
be able to do that, so it's not just you filmed it, you're editing it, and then you put it into the world, and not many people have seen it until it's out there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting part of the collaboration, to, work within that feedback, but we found also that, those early agreements when collaborating with someone are really great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mark and I weren't so much worried about the content, which was interesting. We were more concerned about the emotional aspects of it.
Mhm.
Context over content. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what's the emotion here? And we had those this talks about like with the music, for instance. So I'm coming from my job on doing the music. It's what's the emotion in this? What's being conveyed in here? We're like, what is the emotion that I want to enhance or bring light to?
Mhm.
Music does that a lot, as we know. It can shape an entire understanding of something. And then Mark was the same way too. He's like, well, what's that emotional content that I want to find in here? And so we had those agreements, like, Mark Massaro here, he's an eccentric, interesting guy. The first time you meet him, so it's like, well, it's got to be kind of ramped up a little bit.
Mhm.
It's got to have this momentum and energy to it because at 72 years old, this guy is still acting like he's 15, and it's awesome. I
Right.
love it. It's just adventurous and curious, and not introspective, but extroverted on a lot. So those early agreements really help shape, and it helps create willingness to accept the feedback too. Because that always became the question, well, what's trying to be said here? Well, that's not saying it. Oh, okay, interesting.
Mhm.
I'm okay with that because, we want to do service to the story, you know.
And I think another philosophy that we share
Right.
very, very deeply is doing what's best for everybody and to tell the truth. And yeah, and I think that dictates a lot. I'll let her go do
Go,
her thing.
go on.
I think that dictates a lot of, no, everything of what we do, whether it's with the film or on client jobs or communicating with somebody that's maybe being, difficult to deal with at the moment, what have you. Um, um, you know, Initial thoughts are all kind of just put aside to just focus on that as a North Star, I guess you could call it, of like what's best for everybody. How do we tell the truth? Um, and it carries over into how we craft a story, like in this case of what we're talking about. How we, I mean, I'll expand on that too, as far as like, everything down to like how, and for me as an editor, how I would arrange the interviews and like where this sequence would go. Like, how is it stay authentic to that person? Or, and then outside of that, how we're going to like, communicate with people on set, all these sort of things. I think that philosophy has helped us a lot as we've applied it to like every facet of everything that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sincerity.
Yeah.
Being sincere.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you think? What do you think the hardest part for people who have never done this? So somebody who is maybe somebody who's a filmmaker or a writer and wants to do a feature length documentary. What do you think the hardest part or hardest parts of the whole thing are to do something like this?
Hmm. It's a good question, man. Um, I think it's not good at letting yourself get overwhelmed with all of the things that need.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hats, even on a documentary of this scale. There's a lot of tasks and jobs. Um, so being organized, I think, is like one of your number one priorities, and you wouldn't think about that, but it's going to save you so much headache and heartache as you go through the process of making the film. Like we put together a production book as a Bible, basically. Like, here's our notes, here's our direction, here's our agreements, here's our policies, here's like all our contact people, here's like everything just organized. Here's our shoot days. This is the way it's scheduled. And the planning and coordination, I think, is the biggest pain in the ass.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the biggest pain in the ass when you're trying to do principal work. Um, and I think it's also being willing is also the biggest challenge, because sometimes you're like, it's so like tunnel vision on like, okay, I have this task to do, but it's like being willing to kind of let anything happen, because we can show up to a day and it could be like a total shit show, and something happens. We had that happen one day. There was one of the people had hurt themselves like a day before, and we had to like
Oh yeah.
scrap a whole day and then regroup because we had a day scheduled for us to be together. And
Yep.
you're like, that's fine. I hope the guy's okay. That sucks, but you just have to be willing to kind of roll with some of those things that come in.
Yeah.
Because you can get easily overwhelmed with all of the tasks. I mean, like I said, 35 shoot days, 75 hours of footage. I think I ended up writing probably 3 hours of music that we use an hour and a half for. I mean, that's a
Hmm.
lot of production time. I mean, you went through 75 hours of footage to
Yeah.
find all, like 18 of those were interviews,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's a lot of stuff to go through and go through transcripts and like review it and plan and like organize and come up with this story, as well as being creative with your edit. So, you can get overwhelmed with all those things, especially when it's just two people.
Mhm.
So organizing the tasks. This week, I'm going to achieve X.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my list. Okay, cool. I'm going to do that. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to achieve X on that. Well, then next week you have the next step after that, which is okay, achieve, achieve, achieve. And, the mountain gets smaller and smaller and smaller, you know.
Did you edit
Yeah.
in pieces? Did you edit it in pieces, Mark? Or did
Pretty
you
much.
decide like, okay, the story is going to flow like this? Like sometimes I like to find the end first, which is weird.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I like to work backwards. Some people don't like to do that, but like I like to find the end or close to some sort of end and then be like, okay, need to work backwards or even like up a chunk. Like, did you work in chunks? Like where you're like, oh, this beginning part is emotionally about this.
Yeah. It was definitely in chunks. I mean, I think like the first piece I edited. Well, yeah, it was the intro, and then I edited the Dundee sequence toward the end. I believe that was the second one.
Because we had 2 music tracks for that where were solid.
Right.
And then we had a bass line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
It was definitely chaotic of how put together. Like
It's 75
I say that
hours
it's
of
kind of funny.
that's a lot. 75 hours is a
Yeah.
lot.
I mean, and what Alex was saying earlier about like how, we were in that part in the process. This is like a year ago now. We're like, this sucks, and where it was definitely a struggle to try and figure out like those points in the sequencing of things. I mean, I wish I could tell you I had like a clear method for doing it. And I tried to, but after a while, I think I had to just kind of go with my gut and just do it felt right at times where like, be like, I definitely want to use this. I definitely want to use that. I just don't know where, or I don't know where this is going to come after that, So, and I think that's especially tough thing about what we did here is that, like, this isn't a story with a clear like plot. We're more so it's a profile on people. So, I mean, yeah, to answer your question, I don't know where the end came in. It was probably later, but there were definitely trying to think if there's anything I could compare it to as far as like building something. Like,
Well, you did start with, we started with the prologue.
yeah,
So we had that piece because we started with a concept on that. Like I came to Mark and I was like, you know how when you go to like a symphony and everybody plays middle C from the first chair?
yeah,
You have this really grand sound. And I was like, well, what if we do that at the beginning of the movie? Like we build this kind of thing, like the story's assembling itself as you're watching it as a participant, right?
mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, started the whole tone of it, right?
Yeah.
And it helped him with his edit, it helped me with the music, but then Mark's like, well, we should introduce everybody, but we should do it in an interesting way of like how their stories interweave and we start blending it together. So we have like this first act structure. And I think that's really where you started your foundation with that. When we scrapped stuff, we were like, there's some usable stuff in some of the edit that we scrapped, but then most of it was like, all right, let's build these people out and just get to know them. Like it's your first introduction, and they're likable people. And I think we just wanted people just to feel like they're friends right away,
Yeah, and I can that's actually helped me think about now. It's like what was going on in my mind because like as an editor, like I always work toward like I like to make pivots and I like build up. I like to kind of tease, if that makes sense. And just like in this case, it's like the other component is just like what do we have? And it's like we had all these like establishing shots and all this like so it's like, all right, well, I'll put this to you somehow. Basically it's got to start somehow, and it's not always going to be like perfect. It's but when I was doing, I'm like, oh, this actually makes sense. And that wasn't I don't even know if we discussed like it being a sort of like a pre like symphony thing, but it just kind of from the piece that you had and just where I was like editing it just kind of naturally, it was kind of second nature to me. And you were like, oh wow, this is awesome. Like, oh, is it? Oh, good. So, but yeah, so it's tough to explain the editing process for me because it's very nuanced and it's very like, especially in documentary where I think it's as you said, Sean, earlier, like it can be very free flowing, which is a cool challenge. I like that, I may not necessarily know what I'm getting into, but it allows me to tap into the sort of intuitive sense of story building that I have, if that makes sense. Yeah.
We talked a lot too.
Yeah.
We talked a lot. Yeah. Like long conversations about that edit too, what you were doing. Yeah. I was like, it was cool because we had these really great exchanges of like, well, you have X. Well, then you'd be like, well, Abby has this thing going on and it'd be really great if we like bleed that together into this. And then that would just like snowball into like the next sequence. It was very organic the way he was working on it, man.
Yeah.
And it became like very fluid. And that's the thing you talked about, like, when you do a feature film, you're like, it's the script on this page, we shoot this day, and boom, 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 and it's very regimented, whereas this was like, where are we going to go today? I don't know. It's like traveling without a map, but you kind of have a general idea what direction you're going in,
Yeah.
But I think that's with all documentaries too. Even if you like watch some of the ones where we may know the story ahead of time, like it's something covering whatever crime mystery. It's like there's always something in there that just happens because they started to dig into the subject. So same thing with
That's a
this is like you start
yeah.
to dig in and you're like, wait, I didn't even see this coming, or I didn't see
Mm.
them even like digging into this emotional part of their life. Maybe everybody has this feeling, and now you start to ask more questions to other people.
Mm,
Yeah.
good point,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That's a solid point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then putting this story together was like, it's almost like what are those like books where you have like it's like a threefold thing where you got like alligator feet and like weird heads and you kind of like mess around.
The something corpse. They
Yeah.
call that drawing.
You know what I'm talking about? Like
I know
those
what you're
like
talking about. I don't know what it's
books where
called though.
We used to do that when I was like in grade school.
Yeah.
It was something corpse.
I
Yeah.
have
It's a
no
drawing. You
idea.
do like the three different. Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it kind of felt at times. Or it's kind of just like because there were all different like combinations of like plot turns and things like that we could do with like the characters. But the main thing was just trying to figure out it's like okay, what's the pivot per like character here? And I think I'd like to think we did pretty good at determining all of those and just hitting at that central theme to the story of just kind of like why these people make art. I kind of forgot where I was going with that. I was just getting wrapped in the ideas, but yeah, it's that's another component. It is a challenge for editing in a piece like this because we had like there was I mean, for example, there was a part where we interviewed Mark and he was like, "Oh yeah," and then he kind of glossed over. He's like, "Oh yeah, when I was 12, I almost lost my arm." We're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we almost put that in the story, but it just didn't quite line up with his sequence of events and everything. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's tough when you have something like that and you wanna put it in, but you're like, "It doesn't really make sense."
yeah,
But
yeah,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
that's something to go visit later on with him. It's like maybe there's more stories to be told with him,
yeah,
like
Well, fair point. Yeah, but that also got back to the exploitative thing. We don't want to be like, oh my
yeah,
God,
right,
like
True.
Mark's stories are a great example. Like with the sculpture in New Haven and Worcester
Yeah,
Square. I mean, there was a ton of press drama situations, and we kind of glossed over it a bit.
right.
mhm,
He
We
talked a
didn't.
little bit, but not much.
Yeah, and Mark's story is interesting. I mean, he almost died during that process.
yeah,
He had a massive coronary, dude,
yeah,
and he almost died a couple years into the whole thing. And we were like, and he talked about it in one of the interviews, and we are like,
Yeah.
no, it's like he wasn't feeling it because it was like the more of his I'm going to rise above this persistence was what was really shining here.
Right.
So he could have focused on the negatives, but we're like, let's focus on the positives because the positive outcome had a amazing impact and effect at the end of Act Two. So
yeah,
makes
What,
sense. Yeah.
what do you guys think about just now stepping into just filmmaking in general and the future of what we're seeing in front of us? I think there's a lot of this AI stuff. It's
yeah.
everywhere. I mean, everybody has their opinions on it, but do you think that we're going to be evolving more the way that we create, or do you think that we're going to go back to more of this documentary type stuff? Or I guess, like, do you see it as a positive? Like, do you see some of this AI stuff adding to your workflow at all and helping it, or are you staying clear of it?
I'd say about 98%.
Well, those transcripts helped out a lot, though. Those AI
We had
transcripts.
that's what I mean. We had the transcripts in Resolve that he was able to pull up. We can look up keywords
Yeah.
and phrases that
Yeah.
were like, oh, remember that thing he said blah, or she
Yeah.
said blah.
So why stay clear
Um,
of it?
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling the station. I mean, look. I during the day, my day gig, I run a creative agency,
Right.
so it's like it's seeping into like our business, right? And it's like I don't really want it to be part of it because I like the craft and the create, and what we can make for people. I don't know the future of filmmaking, man. I mean, it's part of it. It's been part of it for a while. I mean, Paramount's using it within their entire workflow. Every step of their workflow, they're using some type of generative AI step within the work they're doing.
Yeah.
Netflix is making films that, when you look at the lighting, they're all the same lighting with every single scenario, and half of them don't even look like real lighting, like real light sources.
Hmm.
I think it's watering down the work that's there, but with documentary and filmmaking in general, I think I I think you're seeing something that's occurred like during the 90s with like Rodriguez and Tarantino and a lot of independent filmmakers during that time that were making these like small, interesting, unique stories. And I think you see a lot more of that. Like we're applying for film festivals, tens of thousands of film festivals out there.
Oh
Everything
yeah,
from short
it's
film
crazy.
stuff to feature film. I mean, and everything in between. And I go, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people making stuff out there. I think it's just too many people who think they're super important holding the keys to all this stuff right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
On
it
the
is one of those things. It's like there's a lot of weird prestige involved and a lot of I mean, we shopped a documentary a couple years ago and we got into some small stuff and it was kind of a pain in the ass process and we even applied to one in our local town here, New Hampshire Film Festival, which is like it's a decent sized one. Like they have some good films come through here. And it was with a New Hampshire based person that we filmed it with. It's like, oh, this is gonna hit. And I think it was because the subject matter was hunting
Mm,
that they didn't accept it.
nice.
They never told us why they didn't accept it,
Oh,
but it was like a New Hampshire story. It was an Olympic snowboarder in New Hampshire. Like it was this whole thing. And it was interesting because I think, like you said, it's the people who hold the keys. Like who gets to make that decision? Is it one person? You
yeah.
know?
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I think some filmmaking's been watered down. When it comes to like the streaming services that are out there, and there are some that are pretty fabulous. Like I love all the stuff that Apple's doing right now. It's
Yep.
pretty cool. They're like taking a kind of a big swing at some very weird stories and unusual shows, you
Yeah.
know. But I don't know. I see a huge resurgence, and because of the access to the tools now.
Right.
We're not working with like work prints. We're not sitting there splicing film together anymore. It's like you have everything that's at your disposal and you can do all this work on a computer by yourself as a solo person and make like something pretty awesome,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, as far as like AI goes too, I mean, I saw a meme that said, it was something like, I want AI to do my dishes and my laundry so that I can go make art,
Right.
not
Yeah.
think things that I can't remember verbatim what it said, but it's like,
Yeah.
I want it to not be for things that what people are using it for right now for this
Yeah.
generative
Like, do all the
crap,
boring stuff. Do all the boring shit.
Yeah,
Like,
Do all the
don't do
boring
th
stuff for me.
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
And
100% true.
yeah, like I like, another example, Adobe Podcast, or we'll clean up like interview audio if there's like we were talking earlier about like before we start recording about like if there's like a fan running during an interview or something like that,
Yeah.
like clean it out. All these little processes, like little tools like that. I mean, just think of like, if like when the first power tool was invented, it didn't replace the craftsman or
No.
the amazing work that they did, but it made their job a bit easier. That's at least where I stand. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a futurist. Like I'm not like, yeah, AI, but I'm like, it's like, let's use it for good, let's use it to
Totally.
make our jobs as creators better. That's at least what I think.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, the tools are all there. I mean, we took advantage of those things that are around that we possibly could. I mean, I think we ended up using podcasts for a couple isolation problems we had for some room noise that was pretty bad, or like one mic wasn't running. We actually got a lav, but the lav was picking up too much reverb, and it's like, try and clean it up as best you can. But like, we're not paying for an audio mixer.
Right.
Like we the only person that we brought on to pay any part of this movie is we brought in a colorist as a consultant for this. Paid him a couple bucks. And that was like where we can come up with just to have someone as a objective eye because we're so engrossed in this that like him and I could not agree on the color at all of
yeah.
this movie.
Mm.
We're like, we'll just take that out of the argument and discussion and just like let's get someone to come in objectively and be like, okay, look, this is where you're naturally falling on color. This looks really good. It's solid. We had a proof of concept. We're like, great, but um we have access to the tools and we don't have the finance to do it. And I think that's good, you know. So like 99% of this movie was, crafted. I think I said we only used audio on one part or two
Yeah.
parts that we were struggling with. Like I couldn't even figure out how to do isolation in the mixer because it was so bad. It's like, how do we recover this audio that we needed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And, like, the technicals behind it, everybody always likes to know, like, what cameras did you use? Was that
Oh yeah.
a was that a choice? Like, "Oh, we wanna shoot it on X cameras and lenses," or was it just like, "This is what we have, and we're gonna shoot it on this because it's really not about the gear?"
Pretty much the latter. I mean, we started out with using my equipment. I shoot on Sony. I use FX3s, FX30s. We specifically though, we did use anamorphics,
Mm,
Sure.
I was gonna ask that because I saw the
Yeah.
flares.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you a specific answer why we did. I think I was just like, "Oh yeah, we'll make it cinematic," and I kind of just went into it like haphazardly without like a whole lot of intent, but I guess it kind of worked out in that it added to the sort of like ethereal type of beauty that we were going for
Wow.
the art and
We
everything.
both love the aspect ratio. We're like, this
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
It
And
is
I don't know. I
nice
mean,
to get that,
Yeah.
like, the more width on the frame.
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like because the space, the rooms that we were in and the spaces we were
Right.
in were like super important to see that. And the interviews, I really liked the way we had this really nice wide frame to like, set up these interview scenes and like feel like you're in there,
Yeah.
because they were great locations. They were fabulous locations, their studios, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like because you're like, oh, I have these anamorphic lenses. I'm like, there was like no doubt. I was like, I'm on board, like
Yeah.
100%. I don't even care about the fall off on the edge of the frame. Like, let's just kind of run with it, even if we're doing handheld, which was manual focus, anamorphic handheld, two guys running around. Like, it was and they're heavy lenses too. And they're like, takes a lot to focus these.
Yeah.
The focus ring's real tough on those, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
It
yeah.
For gear, I think that's pretty much it. We use dollies for the interviews.
Some of the dollies, we had the FX3, FX30, Godox lights. I mean, pretty simple setups, man.
We
Yeah.
did cheat the anamorphic ones and that's just when we got some macro shots. That was the only exception.
Oh, that's right. We had a
Um,
couple macros in there too that we used, but we just fit them within
the aspect,
the
prop.
aspect
Yeah.
for what we needed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it
yeah,
looks
it was
good.
mainly
I
most
was
of the
just
gear, man. It was
curious.
pretty simple.
I was just
What's that?
curious because I saw the lens flares and I was like, "I think these are anamorphics," but I also it's interesting because those lenses, I've never used those ones, but they don't do as much of an oval shaped bokeh. It's
Oh,
more
yeah, no.
rounded on those, which is
Yeah,
interesting
Yeah.
because they
yeah.
all have different characteristics, but that's why I was like, I don't know, are they anamorphics or was that added in post or
No, they
so
definitely were. Yeah, we had those, and then I bought a couple C-Ray. They came up with these autofocus anamorphics, because we wanted to get some shots that were just a little more rapid fire for the day. It was slowing us down a little bit when you're trying to do focus pulling and running a gimbal and the
Yeah.
camera and
Yep.
operating. And it's like multiple jobs, and
yeah.
so I bought a couple of those. We had a wide and a medium focal length, and they worked out pretty good. We used them on a couple of days, which were really, really nice.
Yeah.
With the autofocus side, which was surprising. Autofocus anamorphic was something else. I was
Yeah,
like, all right, let's give it a shot.
they make
Yeah.
nice lenses. I've used not they're non-anamorphic lenses. They make nice lenses, and I think that's the other thing now, like you said before, is like the equipment is readily available to a lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
now. So
Yep.
the playing field is wide open, but I don't feel that I feel like it's just getting started. I still think that YouTube is gonna grow even bigger. I think that there's going to be a resurgence in documentary and more filmmaking with real people because of the AI. And I think we're gonna see a lot more in-person film festivals, people going back to the
Mm.
movies. I think there's gonna be a lot more of this, like, wanting to see and feel more stories about people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on with that. I think the physical media interest is really high right now.
Mhm.
Like the ownership of a physical Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy. It's cool, though.
it is
It is.
cool. No, it's super cool.
Yeah.
My wife and I were like half joking, and we threw it out to a couple of people. We're like, what if we opened a video store?
It's crazy, but it'd probably kill.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty cool.
I think
Like
it would probably kill. People listening to
Yeah.
this are probably gonna think it's insane, but I think it would kill. I mean, I was at,
Right.
Goodwill the other day, just, like, browsing around. I like to see if they have any extra cameras lying around, and I saw a bunch of DVDs, and I was like, "I don't have a DVD player anymore, but I might get one. This is kinda cool."
Uh-huh.
it's kind of cool. The physical media is neat, and the
Yeah,
allure of like negotiating with your friends to find the movie to watch tonight. That we're gonna go do that, or your family or whatever. And I think it's kind of a fun game to play. Like you play these compromise things, and like this is your Friday night to watch movies, and becomes more special.
mhm.
Or the ownership of the thing becomes more special. We were joking about it, and I lost it at a couple of people. Like, what if? And they're like, I will go. I was like, no way. I'm like, do people really like? There's a hunger for
I
the
think
physical thing,
I think it
And
would work.
what's that?
I think it would work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it would work. How the hell did we get there? You asked the question though.
I
I
actually
was talking about, like, physical media and how I think
Oh
people
yeah,
are gonna be going back
mm.
to theaters, and I think
that's it. Yeah.
Well, I wanna add to that because I think now that I think of it, this is just my own observation, but I think there's a lot more of an aptitude along with this resurgence, there's a lot more of an aptitude and appetite, for art and novelty now from just everyday people, I think. Like, somebody, just an example, one of my good friends, his girlfriend just picked up a camera, and now all of a sudden she wants to do photography and,
mhm.
do that, or like or even just their eye for it is a bit more they're a bit more thoughtful when it comes to like art, and they'll talk about you could just like be shooting the shit about music and be like, "Oh, I love this chord progression here. I love this how this like plays into that." Or you talk about like a movie or like say our movie for instance like, "Oh, I love how this character dynamic here." It's like, "Oh, it's interesting how you thought of the ending." So it's like now I mean, I haven't been around the game that long, but I'd like to think it's like as we're seeing like, the rise of AI and everything getting so fabricated. You talked about with how big studios are just handling things just so generically. I like to think maybe there's more of a craving for a sort of a deeper, I guess, what would I call that? Just more depth in taste for art and both as a consumer and like somebody that's actually going out and making it too. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. But I agree with Sean too. Is that I think people will want to go back to the movies more. Unfortunately, Connecticut has seen a handful of places close down in the last couple of years
Mhm.
as like movie theaters go. But um, I think there's an interest for it. I mean, there was something I had read recently is that of the I guess you would say the millennial generation or even Gen Z, there's an interest to watch movies that are longer,
Mm,
2 hours, 2.5 hour movies. Totally okay with it. Totally okay with watching it because it's a story and it's engrossing. And if it takes me to this place, they're more interested in instead of these little sound bites, I think.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
I
thought
think
that
because
was
we're
kinda cool.
we're
What's that?
bombarded with all that short form content that people are
Yeah.
like, "I need to
Yeah.
just be with one story for a little bit."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think people have, I think there's an interest to have more of that.
Yeah.
I think the movie theaters have done themselves a bit of a disservice with doing 30 minutes of ads in the beginning, but I don't wanna sound like an old man either,
No, I get
but
it.
there's a bit of that. We just saw The Bone Temple the other night, 9 o'clock. I was like, "Alright, gotta get there at 8:55, get my seat, I'm all
So I
set."
can see all the ads.
9:30, man, the movie started, and I was like, "Wow, dude, that was," as there's only so many times I can see Nicole Kidman for an AMC ad. I'm like, "I'm good, man. I know I'm in the AMC theater. We're good," So
But maybe what's next is tickets that don't have ads.
Mm.
Oh, no way. You just pay a
Mhm.
premium price?
You pay a premium price, you sit in that theater because 'cause they're showing the same movie in multiple theaters
Mm.
and or in that one room, and you
Yeah.
pay for the premium ticket. I mean, that's possible what they're gonna do. I think they're gonna start giving away collectibles as well. I think that's like we were talking about, like Blu-rays. I think there's gonna be this surgence in collectibles, like, hey, if you go to the premiere, you get whatever, a T-shirt if you're the first 1,000 people in the door. And so,
Ah,
like,
right on.
resurgence to get people back in the door, to be there, to be like, "Oh, yeah, I was one of the first to get there, and, like, you can't get this T-shirt anywhere else." I think
That's
there's
pretty
gonna be a
cool.
lot of that.
Exclusivity.
Yes.
Yeah, exclusivity being a thing, yeah,
That's cool.
interesting.
I like
I
that.
think I think there'll be like that for any event. I think concerts, sporting events. I think there's gonna be a lot of this, like, "I was there, I did this," kinda thing,
Mm.
which we used to kinda have, like, this
Yeah.
real life moment, like, "Oh, I got the soccer ball at the World Cup," and you can't get that anywhere else, like, interesting different bits and pieces to collect.
Yeah, I think we're losing a little bit of that now. I mean, it's like, the early days of photojournalism, it was like evidence that someone was there and it was witnessed,
Yeah.
and it's a good point. Man, I just wish people would go back to the cinema. It's
I
such a
think
great
it will happen.
experience.
I think it will
It's such
happen.
a great experience.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's really fun.
Yeah.
I think we we got inundated with content being just one click away at our house, and we got comfortable. And that happens with everything. Like, if you get comfortable in a moment, it's hard to break out of that. But I think even when you're
Yeah.
creating too, if you're comfortable, it's nice. But the minute you become uncomfortable, I think you create in a better way. And I think you can think in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really
Yeah.
solid point, man.
It's a really good
Yeah.
point. Well, because I think, when you don't have comfort, you have to adapt. And
Yeah.
out of adaptation can come something really powerful and unique, you know? Whereas when you have like comfort, there's no need to adapt really.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
don't really,
You just
yeah.
enjoy. You don't have to really
Right.
survive.
Mm.
And the minute
Yeah.
you have to survive, I mean, I found that early on in my career is like when I didn't know what was next, which I mean happens all the time. Owning an agency or a business is like, what's next? What's our next project? And like when it's a slow down period, you get used to it, but like it's still this moment of like, all right, we got to fight for this. And I think
Yeah.
that makes you uncomfortable, but it also makes you excel if you can take it the right way.
Yeah, definitely.
It's doing those little bits that you just don't know exactly how to do. Just
Yeah.
right on the edge of being comfortable, and you're excelling or expanding that much more. Yeah, it's a great philosophy and attitude, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really cool way to go.
Yeah. Well,
So,
resiliency is part of that. Yeah. That was basically what I was going to say. I mean, resiliency key there. Yeah.
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 So for this film, when will it come out for others to watch? Is it only going to be in film festivals for a little bit and then come out for people to watch? Like, where could people keep keep an eye out for it?
It's a good question. We're obviously on Instagram under Resonance Film. Um, we're I think we applied to like a dozen or more film festivals right now throughout the year. There's a bunch more we had slated and picked and looked at for applications coming up. Um, Ideally, I would love for someone to take this and just put it up,
Mhm.
because I just want to make sure it gets into a wide enough audience as possible. I think it'd be really great for a lot of people to see this and enjoy it and share in the experience, with us.
Yeah.
Outside of that, film festivals, as you know, can be a little tricky if you start trying to put this up on YouTube or Vimeo or something like that for public use, for
Right.
public consumption, right? So we're trying to be very careful about that and of not putting it out anywhere broadly because, and it's in understanding how some film festivals are run. It's like they do want the exclusivity or the premiere of something like that within their region or their area, or don't want it to be openly available so people will come to the festival. And I get
Right.
that, and that makes a lot of sense. We're trying to be very careful about that too, not showing out too much. Right now, we're just doing a few small private screenings. We have one coming up at the end of February up here in Middletown, Connecticut. We're doing two screenings that day, just free. It's open for people to come, but we're just like it's kind of an invite only at the moment right now. Outside of that, man, I really, really the hope and desire is that someone sees this, really likes it, wants to take it on, and wants to take us on for another project. And that would be great. Isn't
Yeah.
that the home run at the end
Yeah.
of the day?
Yeah. 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 You
Yeah.
showcase what you can do in order to then hopefully attract more attention to do the next thing.
Yeah, right. This isn't the end. This is like the first
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, I second all of that for
Yeah.
sure.
Cool. This
Yeah.
has been great, guys. I appreciate it.